Thank you so much, and we did anything but tolerate you. I think it was a very interesting insight जो बातें आपने share की है, और especially the clips, I think a lot of people were able to relate कि ये आवाज़ें हमारे इदारों में गूंजती हैं, और शायद ही जो ट्रिपल बॉटम लाइन है या हमारे रिपोर्ट्स हैं, शायद ही उन रिपोर्ट्स का हिस्सा बन सके. But we're just going to go around the hall. If you have any questions for either of the gentlemen, we'll just pass along a mic to you. If I could just request, introduce yourself, and if in the interest of time, if we could just keep the questions short. There's a mic headed your way. G.
Yeah, my name is Amir Jamil Abbasi, and my question is to both the gentlemen. First of all, I would like to congratulate the women today, because today is International Women's Day, and we as an organization are celebrating it in a big way in the afternoon in our office. So, related to that is my question to the gentleman about diversity. Diversity as a whole in the organizations in general, but in the internal audit in particular. What is the level of diversity, for example, in Middle East or even in Pakistan, for example, in the internal audit space? I would like to know, and is there any step being taken to improve the level of diversity, that is the percentage or the proportion of women in the organization and in the internal audit space? So that is my question.
Am I audible? Yeah. Obviously, that depends on input, especially. For me, male or female, there's no difference. If I have an opportunity or opening or requirement, and then obviously if somebody is coming from your firm or many of the firms who are actually training the students, and then he or she is there, those are equally important to us and welcome. We have a very small percentage of female in our company, unfortunately, but yes, we should increase it, if provided the input is there for us.
So transitioning from the academia into the professional. Yeah. So any concerted efforts that way also?
Yeah, I would just want to add, yes, we need to understand and admit that this is an area where we need to work more. And yes, we admit that we don't have right representation of females, and especially the audit profession. That has probably something to do with priorities as well. We as senior professionals, as well as when we see as parents our children, we set different priorities for our children. And I've rarely seen parents setting a priority for their girls to be a chartered accountant or an auditor or to get into this field. So yes, it has to come from both ends. We need to consider it as a good profession for females, as well as from industry's perspective, we should be more open to accept them to be part of our team. And that, yes, it does add a lot of value, and we need to work more on that.
Just a call out to the gentleman there. Oh, sorry, please go ahead.
My name is Waqar Mansoor, and I am Manager Internal Audit in Lucky Summit. My question is to Syed Imran Zia. I find something contradictory during your presentation. I wanted to confirm about it. That on the beginning you told that auditors should perform as per the expectation of senior management or board rather than focusing more on risk-based audit. And in the end you said that as per the guidance of IIA, that internal auditors should also be a part of board or senior management and take part in those meetings. But if he would be taking part in those meetings, he would be focusing on those areas which they want them to focus, and maybe he would be focusing more on compliance in those areas. So are not these two things contradictory to each other?
Okay, let me just explain. Thank you very much for your question. So you said that auditors, firstly, I said that auditors should be focused more on the risks faced by the organizations, right? And
their management want them to focus. In the beginning, you told that auditors should be more focused on the area their management want them to focus.
All right.
And on the second, in the end, you told that if auditor should be the part of the board or senior it should not be the part of board or senior meetings, because if he would be the part of those meetings, he would be focusing on those areas which they want them to focus, and that is compliance.
Okay, let me clarify. So initially I said internal audit needs to focus on the areas that matter to the business, high risk strategy. And towards the end, I understand there was a slide which talks about aligning with stakeholder expectations. And the concern was that if you align with the stakeholders who are not well aware of internal audit's role, you will miss the focus. So yes, both these points are in line with each other. If you want to focus on the real risks which are faced by the organization, you would want to focus on. But if you try to align with the stakeholder expectations, which don't allow you to focus on the real risks, then you need to fix your direction. That's what I mentioned in the way out. We need to expand our areas of expertise, and we need to educate the board about the knowledge and about the range of services that internal audit can offer. And obviously it has to, the onus is on internal audit. When internal audit brings in some value to the table, they will get more and more jobs. When the board and audit committee and senior management thinks that this guy or internal audit is really bringing in some insight to the business, they will be very happy to bring him in each and every business meeting when they see the values coming. But if they see the value is not coming, so then probably it will be a different question. So yes, internal audit needs to focus on business risks. And if we see that the management wants us to deviate from us, we need to explain to them and make them understand that there are more important areas where we should be spending our time on. I hope I've clarified.
All right, just one last question, and I'm really sorry, but go ahead, sir.
My name is Sharo, and I have a question for Shehzad Saab. Shehzad Saab, after Volkswagen incident and the collapse of the culture in their organization, are there any legal requirements throughout the world for the cultural audit? And do you think they will be here in Pakistan, and how soon? Thank you.
Throughout the world, not in my knowledge, I don't think there is any legal requirement to conduct an audit, but obviously in Pakistan, obviously there is none right now. But obviously we have to start from somewhere. So we should make it mandatory for ourselves. The way we are doing the quality assessment of our functions, that's not mandatory. Exactly the same way, voluntarily, we should start auditing it, assuming its importance. So no, legally it's not required, but we should start performing it.
We're going to go ahead and take one more question. I'm really sorry. I know there's a little shortage of time. आपका हाथ बहुत ही ऊपर था, लेकिन मैं आपसे पीछे चली जाऊंगी फिर. जी.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Syed Imran Zia. I'm from Saqqara. My basic question is basically from Sir Hamza Saab. You have talked about the culture, about basically the corporate sector inside the risk mitigation strategies and overall about the preservation and the value creation. What about the non-profitable organization when their paradigm is about only to survival and the preservance, and how their paradigm could be shifted from the basically value preservance to the value creation? Ultimately, is you have focused about the customers, rather than that time we have focused about the donors and about the overall the stakeholders we have to confine with them. So how exactly we can make, either we have to stick with the value preservance inside the NPOs, or we have to also, we can also shift towards the value creation.
Was it for me?
Yes, sir. That is Hamza Saab. Ji, sir. Sorry.
Imran Saab.
Imran Zia Saab.
Would you mind elaborating it a little bit? I'm sorry for that.
Sir, I'm talking about how we can implement the risk mitigation, risk management program about value creation, as you have focused about inside the non-profitable organizations.
Risk mitigation in non-profit organizations is what it is.
Every organization faces risks of its own, right? And every organization would have its own objectives, irrespective of it is profitable or not for profit. So not-for-profit organizations might have certain objectives. One objective might be to get more donations this year, do more charitable work. So that probably can be a value creation objectives. For example, to increase our donations this year from this number to this number so that we can do more charitable events. So that is one value creation objective I can think of, and internal audit needs to see what they or what the business is supposed to do to get it right. So that's where that's how we can talk about value creation in not-for-profit organizations. And of course, value preservation, definitely we want in every business. We need to ask what can go wrong, and we need to see what are the risks which can impact us negatively and we can stop us from achieving our objectives. So definitely not-for-profit organizations, their objectives might not directly be linked with the profitability, but they would still have some value creation objectives, and we had a role to play in that. Thanks.
Just one last comment here, and then we're going to wrap up for this session.
Non-profit organizations by their nature are actually risk averse, and that actually is a problem. We do not take risk in them. I actually encourage people to take risk and fail in the NGO sector, because if you don't take risk, you don't fail, you do not have innovations. So if anything, one should actually encourage people to take risk and actually fail, but of course on a smaller scale.
Okay. No, I think we briefly touched on that. Basically, what we all said, generally the perception about risk is that it is something bad, and we are building our defenses against those risks, so we need to defend ourselves. But I feel it's more about offense. So we need to take, as I said, right amount of right risks, right? So it has to be a measured approach. We cannot just go in there. So this has to, this risk appetite of the organization has to come from the board. So this has to be drilled down at the organization level and the management level, that what direction are we going and what is an acceptable risk for us. If we have got, which I mostly see that the risk appetite is poorly defined in most organizations, we don't really know from decision A to B to C which decision we need to take from our options, because our risk appetite doesn't give us enough guidance. So we need from the board to set a risk appetite for our decision making, which tells us, okay, to this extent you can go, and beyond this is something else, your boundary ends there. So we need to have a measured approach. Definitely we need to take risk. We don't want to take risk which is beyond us and at the end with the risk to fail. We need to have a measured approach, and this has to come from the board and with the committee. So in the organizations, like I was giving an example of Apple and their CAE, the risk appetite have been clearly set, and there are different projects going on because these are innovating organizations, right? So all these projects are measured against the risk appetite set by the management and the board. And if the auditor sees that any of that project has a risk appetite higher, which is acceptable to us, then it is taken to the board, not for rejection, for their consideration. All right, this is something valuable that we want to do, but it is beyond the risk appetite set by the organization. Shall we go and shall we not? So we need to have a measured approach. We need to have our measures in place to go ahead.
Great. Can I please request all of you to give both Imran and Shehzad Yousuf a big round of applause? I'm very impressed with this volume business of the applause. Very well done, and we'll hope to keep it up. May I please request Mr. Amir Jamil Abbasi, who's a partner at KPMG, and Hamza Hashmi to join me on stage for our brief plaque distribution. Come on, a little bit more. Aapke to haath bhi nahi chal rahe. Could I please request the distinguished gentleman on stage to give Syed Imran Zia, who's the Chief Internal Auditor at Gulf Drilling International at Qatar, to give his trophy, his plaque to him. It's just a small token of our appreciation. It's coming from that side. And may I request Mr. Shehzad Yousuf, who's the Group Chief Internal Auditor at PTCL, to come and receive a small token of our gratitude. If you don't applaud louder, there's no tea. both the gentlemen will be, thank you Hamza and thank you Hamza. Please take a seat. So both the gentlemen, both Shehzad and Imran, will be available during the tea. I know in the agenda it says tea is half an hour, but I'm going to have to play Hitler here, tea Hitler, and ask you if we can cut it down to about 15 minutes so that we can come and try and get things back on track. Have a wonderful networking session. Let's break for tea and meet back here in 15 minutes. Thank you.